your Bibles to somewhere in the beginning of Genesis. Now, as I said the last time we gathered, we looked through some scriptures that points the possibility of the grape being a part of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Also the possibility of being the origin of man's blood. And that's where I left it. Tonight I want to continue by looking at Adam. Write his name down, Adam. In fact, I'm going to ask you to write a few things down. Adam in the Hebrew means reddish. R-E-D-D-I-S-H, reddish. Or ruddy. And there's the possibility in the Hebrew in its different participle forms that his name could also mean made or dyed red. Now, you won't see that in most commentaries and such, because that would open to speculation. And no one really goes there. Could it be, in some forms, based on the Hebrew grammar, Adam's name could also mean made or dyed red, besides just being reddish or ruddy? How did he get that way? Made or dyed red. In the Hebrew, when you separate the word Adam, for instance, let's just have some fun with this, into two words. Remember, Hebrew reads from right to left. But in English, we're going to read from left to right. Write this down. Separate, and use the English letters, obviously, the word Adam. Put an A by itself, then put a space, and then put D-A-M. You got it? A, and then space, D-A-M. It's separating it. And why am I having you do this? Because when you do this, especially in the Hebrew, it becomes a very unique picture word. It unfolds to a very unique picture word. Remember, we're trying to tear apart any type of information we can from the Hebrew right now. Now, write down another line. D-A-M in Hebrew is the word for blood. So dam equals blood. Got that? Now here is where it gets fun. Now the A, the standalone A in the name Adam, can be used as an interrogative. Where? Interrogatives in the Hebrew grammar could be what, who, where, how. And what's the interrogative in the Hebrew? Oh, just about, even in the English language, is a form, it's to form a question. To form a question. Or it's used in a question. I was looking at interrogatives here in this book that I have. that deals with them. And something very interesting was pointed out to me while I was reading that book. As a biblical detective, try to keep digging into what the possibilities of any of this even being possible as we study it. So interrogative in this case is the where, and it's forming a question, because it's being used in a question when you separate these two words and this picture unfolds that you normally wouldn't see by just saying Adam in the Hebrew or Adam in the English or Adam in any other language. Take the English, for instance. There's times you use an A in front of a word as a negation. Now, what does that mean? Well, negation is something that you find you're denying something, for instance, something that is without existence. The absence of or opposite of something. You got that? For an example, take the word muse, M-U-S-E. It means to think. A dash muse, you can write that down, means to not to think. Something that was without existence, or the absent or opposite of something. In this case. Now, what's so interesting about all this information? The word Adam means red. The word Adam could also mean made or dyed red, depending on its participle form. And there's different participle forms. I'm not going to get into a Hebrew grammar breakdown right now, because we're just having fun with this. Adam means red, or to made or dyed red, meaning that it was something that was not at first, but it became, in this case, we're talking about color. Adam means red, the color of blood. And if you break down the Hebrew word into two words, you get the question, by using the right interrogative where it should be placed, where's blood? There's no doubt about it. Christian scholars don't want to touch this with a 10-foot pole. They're afraid of what it can produce, I guess, as far as additional information about the name Adam. So when you break the word up into two Hebrew words, you get the question, where's blood? Write that down. Where's blood? Now you take the same principles and apply it as an English statement using our language, using the negation factor, it would mean no blood. Interesting, isn't it? So we just write that off as a coincidence? Or is there something behind the curtain that we should look at, or at least should consider? And I understand why some of you were skeptical of where I was going. But the more I dig into this, the more I could find any bit of information on this particular, especially the name Adam. The more curious I become. So when you just take everything I just told you, it appears, I'm not saying, and don't read into something that I'm not saying, but it appears that Adam was created without blood. Referring to that earlier email, he didn't need waste products to be removed from his system. He was immortal. There was nothing toxic or wasteful in his system, anywhere in his body. He was perfect. And I posed the question, did he have a body like the resurrected Jesus before the fall? I think he did. And as I said, we know that Jesus' resurrected body had flesh and bones, but there's no mention of blood. And if Adam had a resurrected body like Jesus prior to the fall, then all this I'm telling you tonight makes perfect sense. Where's blood in the Hebrew or in the English? No blood. But he did fall. Adam did sin. And then he became reddish. Now, I'm not going to go through it verse by verse. When you look at all the verses, starting with Genesis 1:26, there's always references to let us make man. It doesn't say let us make Adam. It says let us make man in our image. And as you go through it, eventually he gets to the name Adam. But only God using the name Adam. We are never told, and I challenge you to find it, that God said, Adam, this is your name. If you really think about it, if he didn't have any blood, the name would have been silly prior to the fall. Well, Adam, you got a weird name. I don't know why God's calling you a no-blood individual or questioning where's your blood. He's the one who created you. So why did he name you that name? We don't know when Adam knew what his name was. Read the first few chapters before the fall. You're not going to find anywhere that God said, Adam, this is your name, this is what you're going to be called, this is what you're going to be known by. We knew what God called him. Eventually. And when did God said, this is your name to Adam? That's the big what if. And when? What was the circumstances? I think the circumstances was now you're no longer immortal, you're mortal. You went from no blood to now being poisoned, your circulatory system being poisoned, and now you have blood running through your veins. Now, but when he fell, I believe he then became reddish. I don't think he was before the fall. Like I said, this is my speculation. You can either go with it or you could come up with some other theory. I believe his body circulatory system became one of thick, red, rich blood when he ate of the forbidden fruit. When he ate of the grape. And I gave you the reasons why last time I think it was the grape. Now, you might think I'm taking this too far. You might believe this is far-fetched. Well, if you look at some verses in the scriptures, Those verses teach that drinking blood, taking it orally, like Adam took the fruit, the grape orally, is forbidden. And that's what you find in the scriptures. Before the law of Moses, in Genesis chapter 9. Verse 4, write that down. There we find the command for man not to eat blood or drink blood. Why? Because under Leviticus law, in chapter 17, man again was instructed. First in Genesis 9, then now we're getting to Leviticus chapter 17, when the law was given not to eat blood. And after the law, even in the period we call the church age, the New Testament age, even unto today, we read in, we've been there before in the early years, in Acts 15 verse 29, that Christians should abstain from blood. You could also find other references in Deuteronomy. I haven't written down in my Bible here. But if you want to look into these verses a little further, you find it in Deuteronomy 12, verse 23. You find Leviticus 3:17. Stay in Leviticus in chapter 7, verse 26. And also chapter 19, verse 26, I believe. God commands and demands that man not drink or eat blood. Why? That raises another question, the why. Could the reason be because man received his blood by the method of eating the forbidden fruit, possibly the grape? If you're someone that studies the scriptures, I believe is the best alternative or explanation that you can find, and I've been looking for it. We know in the early chapters of Genesis that Adam, when he ate the forbidden fruit, he fell. Why? Because he sinned. And because of that sin, he died instantaneously spiritually. And because of that sin, he brought upon himself the curse of dying physically. That would take more time for that to happen, but he would physically die later. Why? Because he changed, as I said earlier, from immortal to a mortal physical being cursed with corrupt, poisonous, sinful blood. Now, I'm not the only one that believes that Adam had something running through his veins, something that was running through his circulatory system. The ones that mostly do, there's not many, but the ones that mostly do believe it was some type of water circulatory system without blood. I tend to believe that also. Can I say that the scriptures point to 100% dogmatically conclusion that this is the way it was? No. It doesn't. We're just trying to piece the bits of information that we have to know more about the blood and the importance of why Jesus had to have sinless blood or God's blood. In his being. You could look, and some have suggested, and I'm glad they thought through this a little bit, but it's not by accident that the first miracle in the Old Testament was Moses turning water into blood. You find that in Exodus chapter 4. The first miracle in the New Testament. What was that? Once again, it's a coincidence, I guess. Is where Jesus was turning water into wine. A type of blood symbolism. And that's in John chapter 2. First miracle in the Old Testament, the water turned into blood. First miracle in the New Testament by Jesus himself is water is turned into wine. What happened when Jesus died on the cross? What happened? Let's go to John chapter 19. The Gospel of John. Verse, I believe it's 34. This is Jesus being put to death on the cross. Verse 34, but one of the soldiers with a spear, Jesus is already dead, pierced his side, as was prophesied, by the way, and forthwith came there out blood and water. You go back to the book of Samuel, chapter 23, and also 1 Chronicles chapter 11. You see the story there that David likens the water that his soldiers that risked their own life, brought to him to drink unto the blood of the men that jeopardized their lives to bring it to him. Water and blood is symbolized all through the scriptures. Now, I don't know if Adam had a water circulatory system. My guess he did, to start with. And we could debate that from now until Jesus comes. The one thing that we don't have to debate about after the fall, I could guarantee you 100% he had blood running through his veins. After the fall, he received blood. That's a fact. That's not debatable. And that new circulatory system, that blood that now was in Adam, is what allowed him to live out his remainder physical life. Even our lives. Try living without blood. See how long you live. You can't. You can't. It's back to the verse, for it is the life of all flesh. The life after the fall of all flesh. The blood of it is for the life thereof. You shall not eat blood of no manner of flesh, is the command for the life of all the flesh, is the blood thereof. That verse states very clearly that the life of man's flesh, is in the blood. So blood equals life, and life equals blood, as we know it after the fall. No debate about that. Without that blood that we have running through our veins right now, we cannot exist as a living creature. Right now, those of you who listen to me, you have blood running through your veins. That mysterious substance, which scientists, even to this day, are truly unable to define. So, what am I saying this evening? According to the scriptures, life and blood started They are not a product of evolution. I believe life, the physical life, because Adam became spiritually dead, the physical life that Adam had after the fall was only sustainable for a period of time. Why? Because he had blood poisoning. I know it sounds far-fetched, but whatever that forbidden fruit was, it physically changed Adam and it spiritually changed Adam. I'm sorry, scientists, it's not a product of evolution. If anything, it's innovation of the Creator. So there's only two explanations. The one explanation that is safe, doesn't cause any controversy, doesn't ask questions, and that is God created man with blood in him already. And that's what we're all led to believe. Or the other option, man's sin, man's disobedience in eating of that forbidden fruit changes body circulatory system into one of blood. One of blood. Now, I think that's as far as I'll go tonight. But that's the two options, my friend. I don't think it's a coincidence how Adam's name plays out. Actually, both in the Hebrew and in the English. I believe, and not everybody believes this, but I believe, there has been three major important languages. I'm not saying other languages are not important, but the three major important languages, and it's all connected to the children of Israel, is the Hebrew, the Greek, and the English. I don't believe it's a coincidence. Now when you break apart Adam's name to paint the picture of what his name means, in the Hebrew it asks the question in an interrogative, where's blood? When you split the word in two, Hebrew words. And in English, it be no blood. Where's blood? No blood. Both. It lays the concept blood was not in the equation at one point. And if that's true, when did that happen? The only possible answer to that is at the fall, when Adam participated along with Eve in eating that forbidden fruit from the tree they were to avoid. Because of their disobedience and rebellion, we have all been paying the price for Adam's sin. But Jesus did come, our second Adam, and spiritually, let's just call it, he fixed the problem that Adam created. And physically, in the future, he's going to get that job done also by giving us new bodies. Whatever type of circulatory system that might be. We're going to go into the future by receiving what Adam originally had before the fall. Now, if you think this stuff is interesting to you, what I'm presenting to you this evening and the last time we were live, let me know. If not, I'll just move on to other things. There's a lot of other stuff we could explore in God's Word that I haven't even come close of touching yet. That will also raise some more questions. But for now, I want to hear from you. Play the song.